All right, let's have a look at this one here, the mystery percentage changes. And we've got our first one, which is a yo-yo question, and the second one, which is the jelly beans question. So first one, we've got our price of a yo-yo, which is increased by 25% and is now $5. So it's gone from 100%, right? And it's increased by 25%. So if I add on 25% here, I've now got 125%, right? And we know that this amount here, the 125%, equals $5. And the trick that we do to work this out is we can write 125%. It equals 1.25. All right? And then I'm going to say, like, I've got my starting amount times by something, or 125% of my starting amount is going to equal $5. So I'm going to write that out as a little number sentence. 125% of my starting amount, which is, I'm going to just call X, equals $5. Now I'm going to convert this to a decimal, and I'm going to go 1.25, and rather than saying 125%, I'm going to say 1.25 times by X equals $5. Now if I have 1.25 times something equaling something, I can divide both sides. Like if I divide this side by 1.25 and I divide this side by 1.25, this side here, like my equation stays balanced, but I get rid of it from this side and I basically shift it over to the other side. The other way to think about it is you're doing the opposite of a times when you take something across to the other side. So the opposite of a times is a divide. So because it's 1.25 times x, I'm going to divide by 1.25. So that will leave me with x equals 5 over 1.25. And then I put that in my calculator, or I work it out in my head doing my division. And that will tell me that x equals 4. Cool. That's the algebraic way of approaching it. So we can work out that x equals 4. The other thing we can do is we can think about what 10% or what 25% of something is. So if I add on 25% of something, I'm adding 1/4 of something, right? And if it ends up at 5, so I've got some starting amount here, and then I'm going to plus 1/4 on, and I'm going to get to here. So I could try some numbers to start with. I could maybe go 3, and 1/4 of 3, this is a bad number, 1/4 of 3 is 0.75. So if I went 3 plus 1/4, that would be 3 plus 0.75, which equals 3.75. And I can see I'm not at enough. So then I might try my next number, which would be 4. And I go 4 plus 1/4 of 4 equals 1/4 of 4 is just 1. So it'll be 4 plus 1 equals 5. That's how I could get to my answer. Now let's look at our next one here. It's a similar sort of one, except this time we started with 100% of our jelly beans. And now they've eaten 20% of the jar. So we've lost 20%. So now we've gone down to, if I've lost 20%, I'm sitting at 80% in my jar. And we're going to use exactly the same setup because now they're telling me there's 100 jelly beans left in this jar. 100 jelly beans. And so I could do this the same sort of way. I could say that 80% of x, which is just my something, equals 100. And I'm going to then convert this to a decimal, so 0.8 times by x equals 100. I'm just using my maths there. Instead of writing of and percentage, I'm going to turn it into a decimal. 0.8 times by x equals 100. Then, because I've got this 0.8 times x, I can write that as x equals 100 divided by 0.8. And 100 divided by 0.8 equals 125. Right? So if I take 20% off 125, I'll get to 100. Because if I have 125 and I divide that by 5, that means 20% of 125 is 25. Cool, but these are the steps you need to use. You could, once again, randomly pick your starting amounts, and you could go, well, what if I started at 120 and I took off 20%? Then that will be, and I would think about that as take 10%, take 10%, which would be 120, take 12, take 12. That would be taking off 20%. So that'd be 120, take 24, which will be 96, which is not quite there. And you could just trial and error your way there. You could go up to 130 if you wanted. Take 10%, take 10%. And that would be 130, take 13, take 13. And 113, take 26 is 104. No good. So we can work out where we are roughly there. You might get to be able to stumble your way to 125 is the one that you want to try. But this is probably the better method to learn over there.